My girlfriend had a meltdown and fell asleep on my couch. Trigger warning: mental illness, self-harm, references to suicide, physical violence, alcohol, drug abuse. Last night my 25M, GF, 27F, came over to drop off a package that was sent to her house instead of mine. She's been struggling with depression recently, and for the last 2 weeks she has not been acting herself at all. It seemed like she had not slept in days and her usual high-energy self was not there. I asked her if she was okay numerous times, but she kept pushing me away and gave one-sentence answers about how she is fine and I didn't need to worry. I know she has a history with suicide, but that was when she was a teenager and she has not thought of taking her life since she was 16. When she came over she was in really bad shape. Her hair was messy and there were bags under her eyes. There were some cuts on her arm that looked like self-harm and one of them was bleeding. Her voice was groggy and she was extremely quiet. She came into my apartment, put the package on the kitchen counter, said goodbye, and tried to leave immediately. She thanked me for being a good boyfriend, which caught my attention. I felt a sense of doom, so I stepped in front of the door and told her to stay for the night. She told me to move, but I said she was not in a good condition to drive and something bad might happen. Suddenly she hit me in the chest and said she wants something bad to happen. She broke down in tears and cried about how stressed out and unappreciated she felt. She talked about how she was the perfect student, and went to Berkeley like her parents wanted and became a nurse, but they never showed any support for her career. She gets pushed aside and hates how all the attention goes to her sister and she feels unnoticed. She cried about how stressful work has been and how understaffed her hospital is. She had not slept for 37 hours and tried to go to bed a couple hours earlier but couldn't fall asleep. She hates her body and how much she struggles with maintaining her weight. I picked her up and brought her to the couch, and she continued crying and told me she thought about crashing her car multiple times on the way to my apartment, and I would be better off with her being dead. She finished off by saying she doesn't feel human and how difficult it is to get out of bed, then fell asleep in the middle of crying. That all happened in a span of about 10 minutes. I laid her down on the couch and put a pillow under her head. I stopped the bleeding on her arm and put some bandages on the wound after I cleaned it. I put a blanket over her and stroked her hair for a while. I started crying watching her sleep. I knew she was going through a rough time, but I did not know how bad it was. I got a blanket and pillow and slept in front of the couch in case she woke up. It's 10 a.m. right now and she's still sleeping. She's been asleep for 14 hours and has not moved. I don't know what condition she's going to be in when she wakes up, but I hope she is calm and open to talk about getting help. Edit. Thank you for the replies. She woke up a couple hours ago after sleeping for 16 hours and she explained everything. She was at work 2 days ago and an elderly patient yelled at her and shoved her. She reached her breaking point and when she got home she threw out her antidepressants. She gets a refill on Thursday and went into a manic episode. She went to work yesterday without sleep, but walked out an hour into her shift and relapsed into self-harming. She decided she was going to drive into a tree, but wanted to see me one last time, so she dropped off the package to do so. Thankfully I saw the signs and stopped her and she had her breakdown. She asked if she could stay with me for a couple of days, so we drove to her apartment to get some things. And she played music and sang her heart out. She wanted Wingstop, so I stopped to order her something, and she ran to a grocery store nearby while I was in line and got her favorite ice cream. We drove back to my apartment and ate, and she is currently taking a shower. When she gets out and dries off, I'm going to sit down with her and talk about what she wants to do regarding her job. I think she's going to quit TBH. I saw a comment asking me to call out for her, but I think she's going to call out entirely. She seems burnt out. I'm also going to bring up idea of her talking to a therapist again. Update 1. She took a mental health leave from her job and found a therapist this morning who she says will begin to see her next week. She got her medication refills on Thursday and has been trying to relax, but when I came home later that day she was not there. I texted her and she said she was out with friends and would be back soon. She came back a couple hours later with a brown bag but did not tell me what it was. She went into my bedroom to hide it and told me not to open it. I was a little concerned but decided not to push it. It turns out she was hiding cocaine in the bag. I am a firefighter and I work today and the next 2 days, and tonight she showed up at my station drunk and high out of her mind. She knocked on the door and my lieutenant opened it and I immediately recognized her drunk voice. She stumbled in asking where I was and started crying when she saw me. My lieutenant told me to take her home, so I guided her to the car and drove her back to my apartment. She started yelling about her job out of nowhere, then fell asleep. When I reached my apartment I carried her up the stairs and sat her down on the couch. There were wine bottles and a line of cocaine on my kitchen counter. I called the station and said I would be back in an hour and cleaned up the kitchen and made sure she was not at risk of overdosing. I have never been more mad in my life. I am okay with alcohol in my apartment, but any kind of drugs is unacceptable. My father was a drug addict, so drugs are forbidden from my apartment and my girlfriend knows this. I am upset about that, but showing up inebriated and high at my job in front of my coworkers is even more unacceptable. I have been trying my hardest to put myself in a position to move up a rank, and now I am the guy who had to drive his drunk girlfriend home. How did she even get to the station in the first place? I hope it was an Uber or something. I love my GF with all my heart, but she needs to find serious professional help. I have been able to weather her manic episodes, but this incident is something I am not going to be able to let go quickly. I know she has mental health problems and it's something I have to accept to be with her, but she is not taking her health seriously and it's affecting her life, and it's starting to affect my life. She said she was going to admit herself to a psychiatric hospital on Thursday, but it's Saturday morning and she's in my apartment passed out on my couch. I love my girlfriend. I really do. The past 4 years with her have been amazing, but she keeps getting worse and it's getting harder to help her. I watched my mother ruin her life trying to fix my father, and I don't want to end up on the same path as her. At some point I have to draw a line. Update: she took herself to the hospital and admitted herself. She sent me a picture of the sign-in sheet and apologized for her behavior. I don't feel anything at this point. I get a break from her for a while, so that's nice. I might break up with her. Update 2, my GF was released from the psych ward yesterday and decided to break up with me for a while. She suffered a massive mental health crisis a couple of weeks ago and ended up taking a mental health leave from her job. She showed up at my work drunk and high on cocaine and I had to take her home. She admitted herself to the hospital the next day and stayed for 2 weeks before she was released. Last night she knocked on my door before running back to her car. She left a box with all my things from her apartment and a letter attached to the box. In the letter, she said she needs to take a break from our relationship so she can take care of her mental health. She is in an extremely unstable condition and is receiving treatment for depression and suicidal ideation. She does not feel safe being around anyone at the moment and does not trust herself to make logical decisions around people. She is taking her medication and no longer feels like the world is ending, but she is going back to the hospital to receive assistance with her depression. She is also going to start eating full meals again and try put on weight. The next 3 pages of the letter were filled with her expressing her love for me and apologizing for her behavior. Because she knows I do not want drugs anywhere near my apartment, she asked one of her coworkers about a person they know who sells cocaine and she bought a gram. She bought it in a brown bag along with some weed and hoped I would look at it and break up with her. When I didn't, she decided to sniff the cocaine and put a line on the kitchen table. She bought 10 bottles of wine and drank 2 of them, and scattered the bottles around the apartment before taking an Uber to my job. Because I was the only thing that was stopping her from jumping off a bridge. She hoped that I would get mad when I saw her walking into the fire station wasted, and the state of my apartment when I brought her back and break up with her. Despite my anger, I did not break up with her and she ultimately decided to check herself into the hospital. She dedicated 1 page to apologizing for her actions that morning and all the things she did before because of her mental health. She doesn't deserve a patient BF like me who has the biggest heart in the world, and she is afraid of corrupting me. She told me to find a woman who does not have the same problems as her, and treat that woman with the same respect I gave her. The last page was her telling me how grateful she was to have me as a BF, and she could never repay me for the 5 years of love I gave her. She does not know when she's going to feel ready to be in my presence again, and told me not to come to her house to talk to me. She also drew a portrait of me while she was in the hospital and attached it to the letter. I started crying in a way I haven't since I was a kid. I knew what I was getting into when I met her, and I never held her mental health against her. She always told me what emotions she was feeling and it helped our relationship greatly. This is a very serious situation, and I am glad she recognized she needs professional support instead of trying to deal with it all by herself. She's had episodes before, but nothing like this. I miss her. I miss her so much. My apartment has been quiet for the past 2 weeks without her being loud and creating noise, and I hate it. I miss holding her and rubbing her back while she fell asleep. I miss the streak of blonde hair in her black hair, her big, black, beautiful eyes, and how she always smelled like lavender. I miss cooking for her and making dinner so she had something to eat after a shift. I miss the smells of whatever recipe she was attempting to replicate from Pinterest. I miss the video of Daniel Craig saying "ladies and gentlemen," the weekend she would send me every Friday after 5 p.m. I miss her chicken katsu and spam musubi and her cooking. She made 2 containers of katsu and curry and put them in my refrigerator before she started her cocaine plan, and every bite I took made me miss her more. I miss exercising and doing ab workouts with her. I miss trying new hiking trails with her. I miss watching whatever dumb reality TV show she was obsessed with every 2 months, and her asking a million questions every time she watched a sporting event with me. She was the love of my life, and my life feels incomplete without her. I told my mom and younger sister we were taking a break, and both of them said she feels like a member of our family. I miss her. The last 4 years have been the happiest times of my life, and now all I feel is numbness and sadness. Whenever we had disagreements, they never lasted more than 2 days, and we apologized if one of us said something mean. She was the place I called home, and the only person I feel safe confiding in, and now she's gone for I don't know how long. I want to be right by her side, giving her a hug and telling her how strong and beautiful she is, but I can't. I know she's serious about improving her mental health and she's making an effort to get her, so that makes me feel a sense of peace. I hope she is able to find a sense of calmness in her mind. I collected all her things and dropped them off at her house this afternoon, then got on the highway and just keep driving for an hour. No music or anything. Just the sound of cars and my thoughts. She deserves to be happy and feel like she wants to live. It hurts to live without her. Edit, she has never done drugs before. This was the first time she ever bought or did drugs.